Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we're going to be taking a look at round 4, match number 4. This is going to be SEGA SAMMY LUX versus dipBATTLES. Now, round 4 has not been treating me very kindly in terms of how the results have been versus who I was placating for. Normally I'm not this wrong, but so far the only one I got right was the shutout between Katakawa and Full Cast. But the other ones, I was pretty wrong. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more luck with this one here. I do feel like with SEGA Sammy, they definitely have a huge pull for audience, so I'm curious if the audience vote is going to be swayed regardless of how they do. Not sure, because it really caught me off guard over in round 3 when they were against Cyber Agent Legit. So since I now know that we have a lot of affiliations between the different groups, I think it makes it a little bit more fun on that end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the match. Cool. Cool. Great level representation. Yeah. Love the lighting for that part. Yeah. Woo! Hey! Nice. Wow, that was good. Come on. Oh, look at him getting the timing. There you go, there you go. There you go. Cool. That was dope. That was super cool. I think it had a pretty slow start, but it really built to a great place. From the top here. Love the walkout, really nice. And notice just the daintiness of just having the single light really actually helps tie in the final formation where everybody gets their own individual light. So I think that was a really nice kind of Oreo cookie effect of lighting. Love how he drops it down. Having a little moment where we expand the lighting and everyone's having this nice moment going in and out. Controlling in the upper body. Really loving that moment going down. Now, normally when I see this, I see like a penché, but we're going right down into a dive. Then having this expansion. I love the risk taking here. Notice we're kind of leveraging where he has to be very mindful of his stability. I love the hinge on this and having it also double down with somebody up at the top. That is super dope. And then how he comes up. You look at the core on that bad boy. My God, it was super cool. This is a really great moment over here. But then having the arm extended, that would be my little note, is some are catering it more towards the front, some are catering more towards the outside, and having your two come into play over in the corner. Walking backwards in timing. Love that. Let me actually see. How did he come out of that? I missed it. Right here. Nice little wave. He turns, and then they catch him. Have a little moment to help with the rotation. What's happening in the lower body. Everybody comes up. Driving it down, beautiful cannon. Thread through, beautiful moment, rolling onto the back, all in unison. Really nice. They come up, rotation, which is slightly off between some of my guys in the center. It builds up right here into a new formation. This right here does look like it looks like they're wearing like a crown of some sort. And it kind of felt like we were replicating it in the formation, so I thought that was a really cool choice. Boom, boom. Really love that build up there. Boom, boom, right here. I love this little, God, that mess was super dope. Love that. More individualized, but the timing they got was pretty nailed down, so it was a little bit easier for us to appreciate the individual choices. Bring it over. I love the energy of how they shifted over. Really nice little shamrock action. Bringing it through to get everybody on the same page. About like they were about to do a backslide, but they did a pretty good job kind of faking it out just like that with the rotation. Super dope. So that's something that's really helping in this section is there's a lot of moments where you're expecting it to go one way and then they reverse it. So it's some form of kind of taking a technique and turning it about 75 to 90 degrees. So not quite a full 180 to something very different, but modifying it to where we can appreciate the integrity of the foundation, but they twist it on his head a little bit that helps us appreciate it within the new sound context of how they made the track the way that it is. So that was super dope. Love that. Nice little action in the boogaloo influence. I would say some of the rotation in the upper body could have been more refined if you're going to try to get everybody on the same page. Some were choosing a snake with the head, some used the chest, so that would also be another thing to clarify between my two guys right there is when I noticed that, but let's go ahead and double check. Turning it through. Yeah, da-da-da-da. It could be because of their initiating through the add-on. No. He didn't quite use his head the way he needed to. Having everybody join in, pulling through. I love the levels. Doom. I really like that level change immensely. And not using the floor, but using a pull and like a fixed point action of the hands was a really smart choice. The lighting, divine here. I love it. That God, this part looks really cool. Beautiful usage of a cannon with a speed change happening here. That it's just nice, it's gimmicky, but it's also tasteful because everybody's committing it to the same degree. Waving it down, swinging it around, boom, using the head to help trigger our wave, then diving it through, boom, boom, speed change. Love that. I would say in general, my guy right here needs to use his head a little bit more and the commitment to his movements. I've caught him twice now where he's not quite using the head in the proper position as most of his other counterparts are. He's kind of having it chill. Or he's not, I don't know if he's like, he's not isolating it enough within some of the postures and positions. So that's my general note, even right there, boom, I love that switch. God, it's so cool, boom, boom. Beautiful, and then they take the hand because it's placed here and uses it to roll up. Sick. Then using the head to trigger us over into something else. Right there into the orchestra, love that. And he's our maestro from the beginning, so it helps us be able to see it a little bit better later on. Love this, where he looks, then they all look together. Boom, 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 boom. This right here, he throws it, they all go right into a speed change after. Love this here, ding, 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 super cool. And they have it kind of hop all the way through. They traveled it going from here, and then they traveled it like this. And then they have it finish up over here. So it's using both sides to travel, not just traveling it around. So I think that was a really good choice, cool choice. And then they choose to expand it over the other way, so it actually helps tie together the next transition. It goes, I am. Very nice, boom, boom, great wordplay. No, that right there, boom, really nice to enhance lighting, helps with this. Dropping it down, it goes super, super fast, boom, nice ripple. And he's using more of a gun kind of posture to help replicate that type of staccato action that we're seeing that you get from a recoil of a gun. That's kind of how their texture is across, and it helps tie it together beautifully. And they slide it through. Love the switches right here. It gives very Michael influence on this. So we have some like OG hip hop party moves that are kind of switched on their head by a certain variant, or they varied it up very well. And then we also have a little bit of Michael influence on this too. Super cool. Love switch down. Love that. Having everybody drop down. Notice we have one of our guys not as hinged over as he needed to be for that moment because he kind of stuck out. Energy from somebody in the level representing up. That little pop, 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 pop. Love that. Love this action with the waving. So we're seeing a lot of meshing between hip hop and popping fundamentals with them. The speed change, they got the range right on this, and that's why that was so captivating, because if somebody was a little too late or a little too early, it wouldn't have killed like that. That is super dope. Then they all drop, having one feature, switching it around, head up, and then having, of course, our final breaking it apart. I don't know if they're all making individual choices or if they're all building it the same way and then just getting to their spots. Great job on spacing because everybody got to their spot. Ding, 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 ding. But they're all doing speed changes, so it's super nice and chill. And then boom, and they finish turning it in. And we finish. But we have more hands involved, and he's doing a different type of technique. And we finished with everybody. So it was a very nice kind of reversal from what we saw in the beginning. Super sick. That was very, very cool. Gonna be very competitive against whatever Dip brings to the table. So far for me, what I've noticed with Dip, SEGA Sammy typically brings stuff. It can kind of teeter to more like that lyrical, not lyrical, but like the R&B vibes to a degree, more angsty in nature with like that kind of a, I don't know how else really to word it. But with dipBATTLES, like they kind of swing either way. They either have like a really great set, or it's like ooh, there's some major things that we got to refine. So I'm very curious what they're bringing to the table for this match. But let's go ahead and take a watch. Starting with the single light, also in white. Okay. Cool. Nice. Fun speed changes. Cool. Range is just a little bit off between those two every time we see them feature together. Glad his costume was able to naturally get fixed throughout the set. Cool. I mean, that was a cool routine. Don't get me wrong. It's a Hirogata. No, I don't know what that means. Hirogata. Yeah, I don't know the translation for that. So you let me know what that's supposed to translate to. They may talk about it in the judges' commentary, but of course Google Translate only does so much. All right, when it comes to audience vote, my gut tells me they may go with SEGA Sammy because they have people on their team that are from Jet Boy Bangers. But I also don't know how much of a fan favorite dipBATTLES is. Not quite sure. I mean, based on, I'm kind of going off of my previous records here. I don't know what they got in round 3. And then, yeah, so far, audience vote hasn't really worked in their favor as much. But in comparison with SEGA Sammy, they have received audience vote every time. So I think that's going to be my very safe guess that SEGA Sammy's getting audience this time, regardless of how they do. But honestly, I do think SEGA had a stronger set for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if I did say I wasn't going to project or assume what the judges were going to think, but I can't help it. I hope you guys realize that now. I just can't help it. It helps me be able to cope to some degree, to hopefully find some sense of predictability or familiarity with this. I think if you're going off a concept, which I don't deem to be as much of a viable reason to justify a score, but we can still talk about it because I know it is something that is factored into the scoring of the competition. I feel that out of the two concepts for theirs comes with more of an abstract choice of concept where it's like they're taking more like that animatronic, alien-esque, that retro. They give that like the 80s. It gives off that 80s retro sci-fi vibes. And then with SEGA Sammy, they took a more contemporary, like this reminded me a lot of the new school rappers of America. It gave off that vibe a little bit. And I feel that out of the two, SEGA Sammy match the tone and their cleanliness match the concept and aesthetic of the music. So we go from a musicality front, their texture shifts and their dynamics and their posture changes throughout the different parts of the music and different genre representations. They did a good job transitioning between those here. For their concept, they weren't quite as clean in their range of their angles and their techniques collectively for it to be justified within the concept they're trying to prove. So that's going to be like the overall difference, I think, out of the two that we're seeing. But both brought really interesting perspectives. I really like how they started. You know, I love how it kind of just felt like, you know, we are a robot that's coming back to life. Then everybody, of course, is doing kind of their own thing, switching it up. Love how he's dropping down with a little bit of that kind of, some things are not powered on and they're just kind of existing like dead, like they're dead hanging in the space. And I do like that we have these little accents of the fingers. I'm trying to think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And how he comes up, boom, boom, boom. They all have their own moment. Really great impact from the audience, as you could hear. Switching it up. I love that. It's kind of like we're swatting flies. It does feel like a lot of this energy is coming from the arms and not the back. And so I feel like some people's transfer of where they're focusing on a lot of this could be a little bit more refined. Right there, range was slightly off over on stage right. Very minimal though. So this part was really nice, the beginning sequence. That angle right there is a great example. Let me see if I can catch it. There we go. I knew it was going to come out of full screen. But this is an example. Whenever you're going to go off of more of a sci-fi robotic perspective, robots live in the 90 degrees in the absolute, right? So whenever humans justify the concept of robot, you don't hang out in the space of the gray area. It's very black and white, not pun intended on that, but like it's black and white on your angle choices. Not saying that that's always the case and you're always open for exploration. So like my point is not really that. It's whenever you're collectively as a group, these types of things, notice he's completely overshooting with his chest, causing the rotation to go past the shoulder. And also this one's under bent as well. So honestly, I'm trying to think who actually has a true 90 degree on both sides. I'm going to say he's the closest, but even then where they're looking is slightly off as well. Some are looking front. I'm assuming that could be a feature moment, but these two are both doing that. Everybody else is kind of casting off to the side. So there's little things out the gate. And then we also have fingers not clarified as well. And because you have something extra on the hands, you are asking for people to look at them with more of a microscope. I do like the choice of the glasses. It does help create this more universal look, but because they were not universal in movement in their unison sections, it was harder for us to believe the concept they were trying to go for. Bringing it around, swinging it across, boom. Really like that choice with a little reverb, having the moment with our trio. Notice not everybody stopped at the same time. It felt like we had our moment. And one of our guys was a little bit delayed, and then we had our next group come up. Great on the type of music. I love the pausing, it's fun. But then when you see them move forward, notice even in their setup, they didn't quite do the exact same thing. I'm gonna assume they didn't, but when they're supposed to do stuff together, take a watch. If you look at my guy that's gonna be on stage right, so my guy over here, he is not gonna be utilizing a lot of range here or the hinging of the hips as much as my guy over here will be, and we noticed that about twice. Hitting it through. Notice with the shifting and rotation of the shoulders and upper body, he is more restrictive, and it is not because of the costume. Coming down, he's invested more in the back. He's still taking a more stiffer approach and not really using the core as much. Bringing it through, bringing it up. Yep, notice a great example is right here where I have a pause. Notice there's this crunching happening. He's really making sure he gets full range in. He is not. Now, it does feel like everybody is adding on here in this moment. They are. My guy is the only one that was really investing in the fullness of the movement. Everybody else was taking a more static or stiff range. Totally fine if everybody did it. So I think that's my biggest indication of, I mean, this is one of the better sets from dipBATTLES this season, that is for sure. I would say their round one was really nice and tasteful. I would say one of the roughest matches or the roughest routine that I have seen in the entire league this season so far did come from dipBATTLES. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was 2 or 3. It was the more of like that disco one, I think. Or not disco, it did give Soul Train. I think it was that perspective they were going off of. That one was definitely not a crowd favorite, and it was not a adjudication type of favorite either. But even where I have it paused, you notice where we're all, you know, as we're transitioning, I appreciate that we're all trying to match dynamic and we're trying to match texture, but there's too many individualized choices, like here, because we're all supposed to be kind of the same. Notice we're not, I mean, we got 2 out of 3, but whenever you're in a competition like this, 2 out of 3 may not be enough. And we're noticing that in this case. You know, having it with the energy of having them swing across with the add-ons, you can tell at least in formation. With the dynamics, you can tell who's doing what, but then the nuances of the features and the synchronicity within the movements that are happening with the features, it's not lining up and it's not as refined. So on a perfection side, because for me, I'm referencing perfection as synchronicity, which I am learning very quickly that is probably not what these judges are scoring for perfection. I think it's, I don't know what it is. So what I really need is if somebody who is fluent in Japanese and in English, if you could explain to me what the true criteria meaning for how they judge in their categories, that would be really helpful for me, because right now I'm only going off of one word translation from Japanese to English and trying to fill in the gaps myself based on context of how they're scoring, and it is not helping. So that's just my little PSA, help me SOS. I really want to have more confidence behind how these criterias are scored. Having the energy there was really nice. That was a pretty good moment. That was really nice in the range on that. Speed change was good. But you notice there are some overlaps in the techniques that they're doing. Slow motion, and they also did a little hinge speed change. That is something we saw from SEGA SAMMY, but notice only 2 people did it here, whereas the SEGA SAMMY, it was the entire group that did it. You know, so also one of my guys, once again, my guy over on stage right. Yep, our left side, stage right. He didn't use his full range in the way that his feature did. Speed change is super nice. Switching it up, new feature, but notice in how they're holding their positions, it's not, you can tell that we're like, there's like these micro, we're humans frozen, not we're a true human frozen. How you engage is a little different there. Tipping it down. I like the branch away, which is nice, good choice. This is probably the best moment of the whole thing. This was nice. Bringing it up, boom. That part, once again, my guy in front, not quite refining through the torso, so it's a little bit difficult to see all of this, but I love the fullness of pretty much everybody else. That was great. Love this guy hitting it through. I know they're doing their little speed change as they're walking. Really fun to see. Once again, we have our 2 guys. Same thing that I'm noting on this though. If you want proper range, you want everybody to kind of be on the same page, you got to be mindful of who you have featured next to each other, because that's going to be the biggest tricky part to navigate. Notice some of us are overshooting in some of these movements, and some of us are hitting a particular range. So I think in general, that was the biggest thing. And their techniques, that it's really hard to appreciate what techniques they're doing, because the concept, because remember, the judges really care about concept here. The concept was not being held, like the end of that bargain was not being held up. So it's hard for us to appreciate the other facets of it. Musicality is really nice, but there is some degree of predictability with it, but not so much where it's like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. But once they started a certain type of sequence, it kind of felt pretty familiar, predictable as to how it was going to end up, like the sporadic, everybody having their own moment. It was something that I was like, okay, cool, I get that, but it wasn't ooh, that really caught me off guard. There wasn't really many moments where it felt that way, and that could be something that works against them. Even with how they hold the arms, I love that choice with the framing, that was really cool. Lightning's dope here too. We are chilling a lot in unison too, and we are choosing to go an ambidextrous route, meaning that we're doing movements on both sides, which is totally fine, but we're doing the same sequence of movements on both sides is more the thing. That was nice, but notice some are really choosing to touch the head, some are not. That does affect how the hand comes across in the elbow. And we're noticing it for my guy in the center was touching, mostly everybody else was hovering it over the head. Right here, great examples when you have it down. Look, he's touching his head, he is not. And he's hunched over. I mean, my guy over here kind of is, but everybody's kind of teetering in that 45-degree angle. So the commitment of the upper body is a little bit lacking in general for the group. Hit through. Bringing it down, waving it down. That was really nice with the speed change on this, but not quite, well, that wasn't quite clear that we had the 3 and then we had the 2. and then the 1, and then the 2. For me, I think it would have worked more efficiently. Goodness gracious. If you started with the 2, and then you went to the 2, and then you dropped to the 4. Yeah, that part right there. I really think that my guy, I don't think he needed to be in the first group. This should have been the only 2 in that group. He should have been matching wherever this guy was doing, which is joining. Yeah. Then it drops to my girl here, and then it goes to 3. So maybe it was just an asymmetrical choice that they wanted to make on this, which I respect. If that's something that they really wanted to do, I think that's fine. But going off of the other things, their musicality, how they're choosing to hit it, is definitely more on the, like, there's nothing spectacular about the set that you're like, wow, I've never seen this concept before. I've never seen that setup before. That sequence was super sick, definitely different. How they hold themselves a lot of times before they get into a different type of movement. Their setups give away the genre or techniques they're about to do. I think that's what it is. And whenever you want a sense of creativity, this doesn't feel as creative because of that. There's a giveaway, and the fact that my predictability was proven true showcases the lack of creativity in some of the technique justification through using the music, using the choreography, and using the costuming. I think that's the thing, because there's certain things that, like, you know, if somebody's in more like a tribal kind of gear, you're going to assume that there's some sense of tribal. Now, how you innovate it is the tricky thing, right? And that's what's going to make it captivating and kind of flip it on its head. Here, they're meeting, the music matches the costume, and the costume matches the movement. But there's nothing innovative about this that helps promote this on a creativity level. And that's why there's a really high chance SEGA Sammy's going to pull a shutout. I would be surprised if they get any less than 4 judges in audience. So I think they should get at least a 5-1 or a shutout is what I'm seeing from this. Not discrediting dipBATTLES, like I said, this is one of their better sets, but definitely not to the degree of cleanliness that I think it needs to be for the type of techniques that they're doing. There's an overlap between SEGA Sammy and what dipBATTLES is doing, but SEGA Sammy did it better, or it was more difficult, it was more complex, it rode the musicality in a more interesting way, meaning that it piqued your interest and it didn't feel so predictable. And their techniques that they used too with the music, it was definitely more in the lines of, they had more key moments that captivated, and they used their lighting to their advantage. They did as well, but they told more of, it felt more complete, and I think the lighting really helped with it. In this case, level representation looks great, but also remember too, something that I did point out with this group is the fact that they had a lot of unison in this, and there wasn't quite as much variety in their levels, their transitions, their staging, and their spacing that would have helped them with a concept like this. So for me, if I were to vote, I would have voted for SEGA Sammy, not just because of who's on the team, but if you actually look at it from the two performances, SEGA Sammy, I believe, was stronger on all categories, as well as their cleanliness was really nice, their musicality choice, so the music production was nice. There were creative elements in how they chose to predict or move through their choreography and their techniques. dipBATTLES, this was definitely a step in the right direction. I don't quite feel, though, in comparison to who they were up against, this was strong enough for a win. So let's go ahead and take a look at judges to see if I'm even close.
お見事。自由な発想、どんどん進化して。伸び伸び見えた。挑戦する気持ち。
So like I said, I think it's either a 5-1 or a shutout. Gut tells me more, this would be a shutout, but we'll see.
SEGA SAMMY LUX versus dipBATTLES. Blue, Leto, blue, Leto, blue, blue.
2 people voted for dipBATTLES. Interesting. Well, with Sam, I am curious. Hold on, I gotta get my pen. This was a closer match than I was expecting. I was actually expecting something like this. Well, I mean, that's what happened. I was expecting something like this for like match 1, not for this one. So this is going to be interesting. Sam, wow. Okay. Ooh. Sam. There's a big point difference. Perfection? You gave dipBATTLES perfection. A 10. Sam.
セガサミの方がニュークラシックっていうことで90年代の彷彿させるような感じのことで見せ方も なんかその始まり方とかもちょっとこうカノンでこう間抜けてきたりとか、ジャズダンサーとかコンテとかでも使えそうなものをこういうちょっとストリートダンスでやってくれてる。
I'm gonna stop him right there. He said it was more like jazz. There was nothing jazz oriented about that. I would actually equate it more towards contemporary ballet and not jazz. So I would even get the studio. I would just heed to Sam to be more mindful. I don't know if he was saying jazz particular. I'm assuming yes because it showed up on the screen, but you have to understand what kind of studio style it is too. But I do understand that it does have a more like gimmicky or comical tone to start. I can't agree with that, but they really took it to a good place near that tail end for sure.
すごくかっこよく見えて、古き良き時代を今の時代にっていうことだったけど、ものすごく新しさを感じたので、まさにニュークラシックっていうことが
New classic. I agree. Yeah, and that's what I was talking about.
でも
Yep.
どこかにおしゃれさだったりとか色気だったりとかセンスが必ず光ってて、今回の作品も最終的におしゃれな感じがものすごくしました。で、バトルズの方がですね、コンセプトがダンサーだからできる人間の進化ということで、まあ本当に全編ロボット、もうポップでもなく本当にロボットで見せきるっていう新しさと潔さ。普通なんかああなってくると諦めて普通の踊りに走ってっちゃうところをよく耐えてあそこまで最後まで行ったなっていうなんかこう潔さが、なんかこう僕の中ですごく評価が高かったので、ダンスの見せ方、一つの見せ方の進化をすごくしてくれたなっていう感じがしたので、ここは、バトルズに、入れました。
私はセガサミーの方に入れさせていただきました。セガサミーの方なんですけれども、テーマニュークラシックっていうことで、最初ストリングスのクラシカルなものをこう表現するところから入っていって、まあそれを表現するアシンメトリーな形から入った世界観がとても美しくて、で今回真っ白な衣装にシルバーのアクセントを入れてらっしゃるのも、最初のシーンを美しく彩る役割っていうのがとても素晴らしかったなっていう、まあ、最初の始まりの印象でした。ストリングスから、いわゆるセガサミーさんのこう世界観になっていくっていうところからガツッとこう跳ねていったなっていう、その陰影というか、なんかそういうものを感じて、作品の完成度ですね、全体のが美しくまとまっていてっていう印象がありました。最後こう散らばっててこうサスの中に入っていくみたいな作りだったと思うんですけど、そこの入り方も本当のお見事みたいな。サスの中にセンターに入るのって割とこうずれやすいんですけど、それがもう皆さんお見事に入ってらっしゃったので、そこも美しかったですし、綺麗にまとまってるっていう印象のショーでした。メンバーのこう個性っていうものがもっと際立ってきたらチーム力がわっと上がるのかなっていう欲を感じてしまったというか、キャンドゥさん今回入ってらっしゃって、ちょっと浮いて見えちゃった。ここが立ってくるとその浮きはなくなってくるのかな。キャンドゥさんが浮いて見えちゃうではなくて、そこにこう揃ってくるというのかな。なんかそういう感じになると良いのかなと思ったんですけれども、そこはちょっと気になっちゃったんですね。ディップバトルズの方ですね。このサングラスをかけて、リップもちょっと艶っぽくって、こうロボットダンスというか、内臓は機械でですね、みたいな人たちがなんか出てきたのかななんて思ったんですけど、最初の入り口は良かったんですけど、その後が意外と人間だった。ここまで機械的な感じでっていうことならば、もうちょっとそこに徹してほしかったなっていうのがあって、表現したいものとかっていうのが見えづらくなってしまった。あとですね、衣装が一人
So she's talking about the exact thing that I talked about.
で、それってそっ ちに目が行ってし
which
まう
was,
ので、
you know,
本当に
they looked a little bit too human for pursuing a robot
気を
concept
つけてほしかったなっていうか、
because their range was
もったい
off.
ないですよね。
And even if you're choosing to be human,
あったのに
get your time. I mean, I would say like your range and how you are a human, like getting from point A to point B is going to be really helpful for that.
完成度がぐんと下がってしまったっていう印象でした。で、私は、セガサミーの方に入れさせていただきました。
Oh my god. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Guys, I don't understand why we're giving 10s to routines that aren't clean.
僕は、ビッグバトルズに入れました。先行のルックスなんですけど、今回はテーマがニュークラシックということで、自分たちにまってなかった今まで新しいものを入れようとしているのかな。
Not in just one category. He gave dipBATTLES a 10 and 3 out of 5 categories.
さらにダンスにいろいろ広げようとしてる感じが見えるんで、でもなんかこうね、ルックススタイルからいろんな感じをまたやろうとしてるんで、その今また途中だと思うし、これがまたさらに深くなってくるとすごいまた良くなってくると思うんで、立ち踊りはやっぱり、ルックスはやっぱ強いから、なんかその、ね、強みの生かして激しいだけじゃない、なんかちゃんとこう深く踊れる感じができてくると面白いのかな。対するディップバトルズ、進化したロボットってことですね、踊れるね。ディップもなんか今自分たちの世界観がすごい出せてるチームなんで、このままなんかやってほしいですよ。なんかすごいもうロボットじゃないもん全然。まあ人間の進化かこれは。彼らのまたね、若い感覚で自由な発想でいろんなどんどん進化してね、ものを作ってってくれたらいいなと思うんで、既存のものじゃないっていうかね、自分たちの好きなクリエーションしてる感じがやっぱいいと思うんで、リップは。まあ、構成の感じがやっぱりリップとかの方がなんかこういろいろバリエーションが多いのかな。僕はこっちの方がやっぱりちょっとこう、印象強かったんで、はい。ディップバトルズの方に入れました。
That makes more sense.
僕は
Yep.
セガサミールックスさん
Thank you.
に、票を入れました。まずセガサミールックスさんなんですけど、まず何より、ルーティーンの、タイトさ、揃いがすごい目立った、いい意味で目立った賞だったなと思います。D リーグっていうこのフォーマットに合わせつつも、今回の賞に関しては自分たちの、やりたいスタイルっていうか、やりたい踊りというか、それをやっていた印象があるので、それがすごい伸び伸び見えたとか、なんで結構こっちにも伝わってくるものがあるなっていう印象です。今回そのキャンドゥさんいらっしゃいましたけど、これは良くも悪くもだと思うんですけど、もうすごいキャンドゥさんに目がいきますね。さすがだなと思いました。多分キャンドゥさん以外のメンバーはちょっと若いメンバーだと思うんですけど、どんどんこうレベルがみんな伸びていったら、なんかセガサミーもっとすごいことになるなっていう風に、まず今回、印象としては、思いました。ディップバトルズさんなんですけど、今回テーマが、ダンサーによる人間の進化っていうことだったんですけど、例えばこうテクノロジーと掛け合うのか、ちょっとこうロボットと合わさっていくというか、AI と合わさっていくというか、デジタルと合わさっていくというか、ネオ人間になっていくみたいな、ストーリー、アイデアを、表現したショーなんだろうなっていう印象ではあるんですけど、それが踊りからは正直あんまり伝わってこなかったというか、衣装だったりそのロボットっていうスキルを使ってやってることでは伝わってきたんですけど、踊り自体からは正直ちょっとあんまり伝わってこなかったような印象があります。なんでもう一個僕たちに訴えかけるというか、伝わるというか、届くものがあるとちょっとまた見栄えが違うんじゃないかなと思いますね。いろんなジャンルのメンバーがいると思うんですよ。なんか個々のジャンルがもうちょっとフューチャーされるというか、シンプルダンス面とかで勝負できるとなんか全然違うんじゃないかなって今回見て思ったりしましたね。今回はもちろんちょっといろんなジャンルの要素が入っていたとは思うけど、中でもロボットの動きを基本的にこう多様というか使っていたので、 ディレクターの牽制にすごい目がいってしまって、他のメンバーはちょっと正直薄くなっちゃったかなっていう印象がありました。アイデアがその踊りからあんまり伝わってこなかったっていう部分で、個人的にはクリエーションがちょっと低めになってたりとか、牽制がちょっと目立ってしまったことによって一体感っていうのは正直そこまで。
I'll say out of all the judging sheets so far, like his is the most accurate for how I was expecting it to look. Genuinely.
そこで完成度っていう部分もちょっと、個人的には下げ目につけました。5つの要素が全部今回はセガサミーさんの方に点数を高く入れています。で、合計でフォースマッチに関してはセガサミールクスさんの勝ちとさせていただきました。
And I know sometimes it may come across like, okay, whenever a judge does whatever I want them to, then therefore I'm going to agree. Like, I don't want whenever I'm like, yes, I agree with them, but then the previous match, I'm like, what do you mean? You know, and I'm like critical of a judge and how they're judging it. It's his reasoning I still don't 100% agree with. For him, one point he made, which is true that I agree with, is he scored Sega Sammy higher in all components. I would have as well, but I would have scored them before scoring dipBATTLES, you know? So for me, there wouldn't have even been a comparison scoring situation. I don't know how they do it once again, but he made the point of the concept wasn't clear with dipBATTLES. Of course, we know that in D.LEAGUE concept matters, but when you take concept out of it, and you look at all the other bases, because remember, concept should not take up all 5 categories. It should take up 1, if that. Do you know what I mean? So that's why for me, I'm like, if we use concept as the general basis for itemizing or distributing points, that's not the most practical way, and it looks like we're looking at the routines in a skewed perspective to begin with, and we're going off of our personal experience of what we deem as a certain justifiable way to do a concept versus not, and we're not looking at, okay, even if I didn't like the routine, is the spacing still good? Is it still clean? Is it still demonstrating authenticity within the style that they're representing? Are they demonstrating levels? Are there dynamic shifts that showcase a wide range of features? Are we staying in unison the whole time? Are we cannons? What about ripples and add-ons and breakaways? You know, so there's so many components that you can just look at and itemize without looking at, did I get the concept? Because imagine if both groups had terrible concepts. How would you judge it? You know what I mean? How would you pick a winner if you're just going off of concept? So I still don't agree that we talk about concept as extensively as we do in terms of justification of the overall score. I feel like talking about other components, which is something that I appreciate more from this judge than from some of the other ones, don't really do it as much. He talks about, even with the groups that he scored high with, there is still an area where he's like, this part was a little lacking, so this would be something you need to refine. So it could just be, for me, I have a very... Because I have to hold myself to that standard, because I'm in a position where people are going to, whenever I do analysis of certain groups and stuff, if I say something's good, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Jessica said it was good. Now, do I think that I'm the end all be all? No, and I shouldn't be, truly. But I do know that my words carry weight to some degree, especially in this position that I'm in. Because a lot of people watch me, because I try to be objective as I can within the scope of whatever we're watching, right? So because this is like an actual competitive league, and I still am missing some pretty key puzzle pieces to my perspective, it is hard for me to feel like I'm doing as good of a job with this like I could be if I was adjudicating something else, which is fine, to each their own. I do hope that over the years, because I do plan on doing this indefinitely, because I really like D.LEAGUE. It's super dope. I personally really wish that we could I would be able to understand more of the objective justification, or hear that more, or if Google gets better, I want the translations to translate more accurately so I can really understand the true scope of the judges. Because that's another thing too, is that I don't know, am I arguing or defending something where the judge didn't even say that to begin with? Then I sound like an idiot. Do you know what I mean? So, but I mean, here's the thing. I do agree with him for the most part. Well, most of the judges, I agree with them for the most part, but there's always 1 or 2 things where I'm like, I don't know if that's a good enough reason, you know? Giving a 10 for a routine where you have a judge that says something like this, but then another judge gives that routine a 10 in 3 categories. Like, ooh, that's tricky stuff. That's hard. And she also scored a very similar, like this is what I was expecting from all of them was this. But then also I have to remember you got a judge like Shinichi that's going to give a 10 on something if he likes it. And I'm like,
私はセガサミールックス
I don't
にさせ
know.
ていただきました。ヒップホップというルクスのスタイルにクラシックを乗せたことにより、ルクスの良さがさらに際立ち、とてもいい作品になったんじゃないかなと思います。
I do like this judge because she does talk about things that I don't think about,
すごいクラシックの
which is cool. And I like that. And that's when you have a wide range of people, I think it's great.
優雅な曲調にも
And that's what you should be getting from a match, is that with your judging panel. Not everybody should think the same way,
と思いました。
but it needs to make
ディップバトル
sense
ズさん
though.
は人間の進化ということでまたハードルの高い、
So the
テーマ
evolution
性
of
だった
humans?
のかなと思うんですけど、こう最初の入りは
Oh,
す
so
ごい
they may have
ゾッ
picked
と
just
さ
a
せられ
difficult
るよう
theme.
なワクワクする入りになっていて、
Yeah.
どんどんこう壊れていくような表現だったんですけど、少しこうやっぱりテーマ性っていうのの方向性だったりとか、途中からどういう表現をしていきたいんだろうっていう迷いまではいかないですけど、読み取るのに少し時間がかかってしまったりして、最後の終わり方がこうちょっと無理やりつけた感じがしてしまったりとか、あらが見えてしまったっていうのが正直あったんですけど、でもこう新しいものに挑戦するっていうこう挑戦する気持ちだったりとか、取り組みっていうのはすごいと思うので、このチームはなんかこうもう一つこうハマるものがあれば化けるチームだと思うので、今後に期待しています。ということで今回はセガサミールクスさんに入れさせていただきました。
Well, all right. So there you have it, folks. I mean, yes, we were technically right. Sega Sammy got audience and they won, but they didn't win as big of a gap as I was expecting. So I think that was my hang up on this one. But I am getting in the swing of things. I am doing a little bit better than I did. So far, I'm 2 for 2 when it comes to accuracy from judge's standpoint. Audience, I am 3 for 4 though. So that first round was just wild to me. And what was going on in my brain. But I mean, now that I think about it though, what was it? Oh, you know what it is? I think it was when I watched match 1 and 2, I had not reacted to, like I had not really processed that people that were from Jet Boy Bangers, that they, what's the word? That they had members in Septini Raptures. I think that's why. I think that was more like a popularity. Well, yeah. Guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overviewing things and I just need to kind of stay in my lane. We'll see though. But anyway, that was a pretty good battle. I really liked, both had really great components in it. But it is, yeah. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, but I am looking forward. Dib's definitely going in the right direction for sure in terms of their type of concepts they're pursuing, because they did kind of hit a couple trouble spots in some of their rounds. But it is nice that we're kind of looking on the up and up. It is nice that they were able to get some form of points in comparison to Sega Sammy. So there's that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more D.LEAGUE, I always post it first on Patreon and then it trickles out on a schedule on YouTube. If you're totally okay with waiting, it'll be out in a timely manner after I react to it. Normally whenever I'm actually going to be caught up with D.LEAGUE, because right now I am hanging out in round 4 when round 6 is just finished, if that tells you kind of how much more time I have to go. I feel that I'm just looking forward to seeing how all these groups progress, what kind of great weeks there are, what kind of off weeks they have. You know, we do have some groups that are really chilling and being very consistent in their execution. Then we have some groups, it really just depends on the week, you know? So it's been really fun nonetheless, because like I said, everybody's human. Judges are human and so are the participants. So I think it just makes it very enjoyable to get to be exposed to a different type of culture of competition in comparison to what I'm used to. So once again, I'm Jazz. Thank you so much for watching and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!